Konnichiwa, Kaiju Kitties. Today we are digging up some fossils. A little close to 10 years ago, as part of a drawing challenge, every day for a month, I drew a kaiju from the Toho Studios monster movies from their Showa era. I had so much fun doing this that I followed it up with another drawing challenge where I drew a monster from the Tsuburaya Studios Ultra series. Today I'm going to be showing you this old artwork and the process behind it, and talking a bit about the maestro behind it all, Eiji Tsuburaya. Like a lot of Godzilla fans, I first got into the series when I was a kid, because when you're a kid, seeing giant monsters smashing buildings and fighting each other is just the coolest damn thing ever. And these movies are so much fun to children the world over, and to children of several generations, that it's easy to see the appeal of them. Now, unfortunately, when you start getting older is when it gets a little harder being a Godzilla fan, because some people grow out of it, and some people who just never got into it in the first place are very, very vocal about what they don't like.
Oh, those movies are so fake. Oh, you can tell Godzilla's just a guy in a suit. When the people talk, their mouths keep on moving after they're done talking.
And it's just endless criticism, and if you think the just regular people joking about it are bad, man, the critics themselves were not kind. If you read any horror or sci-fi book written before like the year 2000, chances are you're going to be hearing from someone who really, really hated Godzilla, because there is no shortage of American critics for the longest time who just despised these movies and saw them as just the worst things that were ever put on film. Now, why they thought that could be a lot of reasons. Could be racism, could be just watching bad edits, or could be they just simply did not see the appeal of it. Now, are we really defending these movies because they're good? Are we just seeing these as sort of... I hate the phrase camp, because camp just feels very derogatory to me, but at the same time, do we enjoy these films because we are laughing at them and because they're intentionally bad? And the honest answer to that is no. I'm not saying all of them were good, because let's face it, in the original Showa series, there were 15 of the Godzilla movies with a lot of extra monster movies on the side. And to say that every single one of them is cinematic gold is definitely not true. There are some of them that have shortcomings, budgets were slashed, or because just the wrong talent was put behind the camera. Who knows, could be a lot of reasons, and a lot of it is subjective. But on the whole, do these movies hold up? And I honestly think yes, they do. Every person's interest in Godzilla is going to be for very specific reasons, and everybody's going to have a favorite Godzilla movie based on their personal tastes. There are Godzilla movies that run dark and serious, there are Godzilla movies that are light and fun, and then there are some that balance them pretty perfectly in between. The best thing that unites them all, though, is really the talent that was putting these movies together, and a lot of that creative talent was headed up by Eiji Tsuburaya. Now, no matter what the tone of the movie may have been, Tsuburaya and his crew always did an excellent job. They always put a lot of imagination into these. As much criticism as the suitmation gets, it became kind of its identity. It was sort of a blessing in disguise that Tsuburaya wasn't able to do the stop motion like King Kong that he so desperately wanted to do, because inadvertently, by going with the suits, he really did create sort of the identity of Japanese tokusatsu and Japanese sci-fi in general for the longest time. I was mentioning before about the different tone of Godzilla movies and the monster movies in general, and it's no secret that Tsuburaya really wanted these movies to appeal to children, because he loved kids and he saw just how much happiness these films gave to children. And that's wonderful. A lot of people who prefer Godzilla dark and more serious because they want the Godzilla to be treated with respect, and the respect of, being an adult and being able to enjoy these films without having people snickering at you and saying that they're dumb kiddie fare. Well, who cares if kids like them? That's the thing, is chances are you got into these back when you were a kid, and just because something is appealing to kids doesn't mean it's bad, or doesn't mean it's badly made, well, most of the time. And I think that Tsuburaya understood that. I think Tsuburaya understood that even though that a lot of these films were made to make children happy, that doesn't mean they had to be made just slapdash and lazy, because I don't think he ever would have wanted to turn in something that was below his standards. That doesn't mean he knocked it out of the park every single time. Yes, you can point out to shortcomings like the 1962 King Kong suit from King Kong vs. Godzilla and really wonder what they were thinking, but for every crappy Kong suit, there were a lot of other effects that really hold up well over time and became part of why we love this series so much. Godzilla, whether he's dark and scary or fun and silly, it's entirely up to you what you prefer, but the fact that Tsuburaya gave us so many flavors of Godzilla to enjoy is pretty astounding, and I think that definitely needs to be commended. Now, going back again to the variety of tones in the Godzilla movies, how you could have a dead serious film like the original Godzilla and also have it be connected to light and silly goofy fun like Godzilla vs. Megalon. That variety is also very much showcased in Tsuburaya's own shows that came afterwards when he formed Tsuburaya Productions and the Ultra series. Now, as varied as the Godzilla movies were, the Ultra series was all over the place in any sort of exploration that they wanted to do, either with art styles or storytelling. They did it, and they did it with gusto. There was no limitations, there were no restraints. Any theme that they wanted to explore, they went ahead and did it anyway. The very first of these series is still my favorite, and that is Ultra Q. I've raved about Ultra Q many times before, and just how daring the show was, and how any sort of story they wanted to tell, they went right ahead and did it. If they could pull off the effect, you better believe it ended up on screen. There were silly episodes, there were dark and spooky episodes, there were thoughtful episodes, and then there were episodes that were just flat out surreal and that were almost disturbing in just how out of this world they were. Tsuburaya really let loose with these shows, and that's a lot of their strength, is that all these decades later, they still are pretty daring stuff. Now, of course, Tsuburaya was still looking out for the kid crowd, and kids liked light, colorful fun, kids liked monsters, and now kids were gonna love the superheroes that were beating the crap out of the monsters, because along came Ultraman. And Ultraman is a lot of the light, colorful fun that I think Tsuburaya had always wanted Godzilla to be, or would end up making Godzilla into, no matter what others may have told him. That doesn't mean Ultraman was always just light kiddie fare. A lot of it is innocent and fun and action-packed and all that, but every once in a while you would come across an episode that would really make you think or really make you feel, and that was a lot of the charm of the show, was that you did love the characters, you did love the exploration, and just how anything could happen, and that was really the marvel of Tsuburaya Unleashed. This was followed up with the slightly more mature series, which was Ultra 7, which has a pretty big cult following, because that was aimed at maybe a little older crowd, but that also showed that, anybody could get into these shows, because it wasn't always just for one audience. This really was all ages entertainment at its best, because there was a little something for everyone, and anyone who was open to seeing the random places that these shows could take them, you were rewarded big time. The Ultra series still continues to this day, much like Godzilla, and also much like Godzilla, the tone varies all over the place depending on what kind of stories people want to tell, what kind of characters they want to explore, and just any old crazy thing that they want to just make happen. It happens, and I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing for any artist to do. Tsuburaya and his crew really understood that you shouldn't always just be limited to one thing. You should always be exploring, you should always be challenging yourself, but you should also always be remembering who you're making your art for, and whether that is the children of one generation or the next. If you're making something that people love, you're really doing something wonderful, and that's why Tsuburaya's legacy still lives on to this day. Thank you for watching, folks. If you have a favorite kaiju of your own, make sure you comment below or check out my archives and see if I've drawn it for you already. Take care. Bye-bye.